Retailers are looking at various means to attract customers, and now the idea of grabbing customers by their senses, dropping them into lavish multi-sensory experiences and physically moving them beyond everyday brand interactions is taking off in a big way. Gareth Pearson, CEO of BMI Research, joins us to tell us more. A very good morning to you, Gareth. Well, a very competitive space we're talking about here, so it looks like retailers need to think out of the box
Yes.
to be ahead.
Yes, absolutely. I think what we're seeing is people with social media and the advent of that, people are looking for experiences. I think retailers have identified the need to offer value to consumers and to shoppers, and so in that process they are starting to look at how could they improve the experience of going shopping, something which is typically mundane for a lot of people.
So how important is that actual retail experience? I mean, for example, with the Woolworths, you walk past the clothing first before you get to the food, and you often end up picking up a scarf or a pair of socks or something. Yes. Clicks do something similar, where you walk through all the consumer products to get to the actual chemist. And then, of course, you know, you've got a big online segment coming on. Which companies do you feel are sort of really taking advantage of this and being most innovative?
I think that's exactly where we're at. I think we're seeing typically brands and retailers that are focused towards the high end are experiencing a lot of online sales. At the same time, having the consumer and shopper in store buying those impulse purchases is also important for the overall mix and performance of the retailer. So the retailer is recognizing that. So the way they channel you through the store, really important. But I think what we're seeing is some of the retailers are just taking this to another level, whereby you can go into the store and there's a whole multi-sensory experience. You can smell the barista's coffee, because there's a coffee machine in there. There may be a baker walking past with a tray of croissants that have just been baked, and he literally walks through the store in some of these experiences we've seen. So suddenly the shopper is having a complete multi-sensory experience, and thereby getting enticed to buy a bit more. So yeah, the mix is quite important. The dynamics at play are significant.
Gareth, this is born in Nairobi. The marriage between online and in-store shopping has become inevitable. But from your research, what do you see as going to be the next or the biggest disruptor in shopping retail patterns?
Bonnie, I think the question about the impact of online is obviously, we need to just state up front that it's a very small percentage of total retail sales. And it does depend on where there's activity in terms of network, etc., etc. So I think that's the first thing to state, specifically when you're talking about rural Africa. But I think when you're talking about the actual in-store space, it is about offering value. And that's really what we're seeing retailers work at. Value could be in the price, and obviously disposable income's a big piece at play at the moment, and shoppers are seeking value all the time. So having this experience drives that.
It's also about collaboration between the different retailers. Are you seeing more collaboration happening in order to create this multi-sensory experience for consumers?
Yeah, I think the collaboration is happening between retailers and brands. So, you know, there's a favorite chocolate that a lot of us love, a brand, and that particular business has done very well in setting up their own stores, which are destination stores where you go and have something absolutely unique and special. But in addition to that, they are collaborating with retailers in a new way. So, for instance, creating either in-store chocolate stands or places where people can melt and create chocolate and smelt it, and it's a whole, wow, I bought this and it was made for me while I stood in the store, and packaged, that kind of experience, to something a little less grand, which is where they package the chocolate, or you have the choice of choosing your chocolates and making your own bunch. So, you know, that's an example of co-branding that is happening.
And what about the sort of trends we're seeing, especially with regards to diets and a healthy lifestyle? So it's not even just the food, it's also, you know, focusing on sportswear, people getting more active.
Yeah.
Are these businesses at the forefront, or are they sort of reactive to these things? I know Woolworths is great at bringing out cauli rice and, you know, carb-free lunches and that kind of stuff.
I think they're spending a lot more time listening to consumers through social media. and that influence is coming through in terms of the choices and what people are looking for. I think some of them as well spend time obviously overseas, looking at what trends are available overseas and are trending there, and then working out the discernment. The million-dollar question is always applying the discernment as to what trends will probably work here and which ones won't. And I think that they are applying their minds in that sense, yes.
That being the case, Gareth, what is the absolute must-have for an ideal shopping experience?
Bonnie, I think the must-have revolves around two things. Firstly, the correct ranging. In other words, the correct products on shelf available. And that's a very, very old point and challenge for retailers. Running out of stock, running a promotion, and then not having the stock, for instance, is an example of frustration for a shopper. But so having product on shelf, having the correct products that particular market, and it does come down to geographies, it does come down to a store-specific need. And then thirdly, I would say it's about price. It's about having the correct value, the competitive price offering for that shopper. The other things that we're seeing happen are of value, and we're seeing lots of gimmicks and items which are brought into some of the retailers at the moment in South Africa are using, and children are coming into the decision making. I'm sure those of us who've got children know all about that. You know, the kids want to go and buy X amount so that they get the little toy or the gimmick.
Well, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Gareth Pearson, CEO of BMI Research. And